Hello, hello. So it is the night, well, not the night. It is the day after the night of the performance. Yeah, I've now completed one loop, which was to learn a 1 minute speech using a new technique or to experiment in that new technique, then to self-direct or to self-practice the speech in a little bit more of a focused and more educated way, rather than going in blind, using obviously the philosophy of feedback, of filming it, watching it back, and then also creating a sort of cribs sheet in which you can then start to rewatch the material over and over again, but looking at it from different angles. So obviously voice, movement, acting, general, and then what you can do to bounce off into the next take. So, notes for next take. So I'm just trying to think back as a whole. What was the whole process like? I think that the fact that I was able to repeat the speech over and over again in a lot more structured way, and I think that I certainly work better when there is a purpose to that practice, sort of deliberate practice, which is one of the key philosophies of this new way of teaching, deliberate practice, so that you can do intensely sort of an hour and a half, something like that, or I need to work out how long the brain might sort of efficiently be focused. But let's say for an hour, but within that hour you have worked in such a smart way that it would have taken sort of 4 or 5 hours of sort of undeliberate practice to achieve the level that I had achieved. So what that will do, in essence, is obviously everyone is trying to juggle their jobs, and time is money. Time is money to actors. So if I can develop ways of turning potentially 10 hours worth of practice into 2 to 3, then what that will allow the actor to do is walk in to that room with a deeper, much deeper understanding of the role, a deeper sort of connection to the piece, but not sacrificing, taking a whole day off. If it is literally just a case of a couple of hours of line learning, and then the next day a couple of hours of the, doing a take, watching it back, etc., etc. So yeah, actually, that I just have thought about now as I was unpacking that with you. So let's talk about the process from start to finish. So the line learning, it was 1 minute. It was a 1 minute monologue, and I developed a sort of feedback loop mechanism that lasted between 17 to 20 minutes. Now I did that for an hour in terms of prepping that feedback loop, and then also trying to download it into the brain. And then the next day, I did it whilst walking back home. So that was another 20 minutes or so of practice. But then by that time, I had comfortably, I felt intuitively that I'd comfortably had it. So then that's when I stopped doing the line learning. And then a couple of days later, when I had time, right now it's taking me longer because I'm creating these experiments, and then also doing them at the same time. So it's quite a brain pickler. But let's say that the actual exercise of taking the takes let me say that again, of shooting and then watching back, I would say that I did 2 1-hour sessions of that. So in total, I did 4 hours. I did 4 hours of deliberate or purposeful practice, and got to a point where I was confident to be at performance level. So I then got to the space. I managed to be able to get someone to film me doing the dress run, which gave me, as I predicted, a low-level shot of adrenaline. And watching back on it, I'd never watched myself in a dress run or having low-level adrenaline like that. And what I tend to feel, like I know I feel it, but to actually watch it was something really quite extraordinary, is that when I have adrenaline through my body, I tend to slow down and try and get the lay of the land. So then what happened is I felt that the speech was a little bit disconnected to the sort of feelings or emotions that were within the speech. So then I rewatched it again using the crib sheet and sort of looked at it from all the different angles, from the voice, the movement, the acting, the general, and then how you would... Sorry, there's a gaggle of children outside. Anyway, so yeah, then what it also did is I was able to rewatch it and see how I was using the space as well, which was something I hadn't anticipated. So I then was able to get a clear idea of where the monuments were. So a little bit about the pieces that I talk about. The BT Tower. So there was a section of the audience that I used as the BT Tower, as Big Ben. And so by anchoring those 2 points, I was able to feel a lot more comfortable on stage. And I normally have trouble warming into a piece. So, and I think that's always the case with people. I think that, in fact, it's sometimes considered a little easier to do Hamlet compared to, what's that character? He comes on at the beginning and then at the very end. Anyway, it's because your adrenaline sort of gets regulated because you're pretty much on stage for a long time, for long periods of time as Hamlet. So it's almost like once you're locked into the roller coaster and you've been on it for a good 5 minutes, then you know you're not going to die. So your flight or fight mode sort of backs down, and then you're able to concentrate on or focus on using the adrenaline. But I did feel for the first time that I had a lot better handle on my adrenaline. I mean, I keep referring back to different sports or athletics. So that was the 100-meter sprint, and I was happy with the result. The only thing is that I wasn't able to get it filmed. So that is something that I need to be a little bit more, assertive, is to find someone and be like, look, could you please film this? So that's what I'm hoping to do next time. So yeah, what I've realised is that you don't know how long it will be until the show starts. It's sometimes, they say it's 7:30 and then it actually ends up being more about 7:15. And you've got the running time. So what I've realised is that the time up until you go up to the stage should all be part of the process. A little bit like how an archer pulls back his bow, and then going on stage is the release. So the pulling back of the bow is everything from the line learning to the self-directing. And then there was one section just before, which was how do you get into the zone beforehand? and then you let go. So that is something I'm interested in as well, is to potentially look into how does Mo Farah sort of zone in before running, the 1500 or the 10,000. How does Usain Bolt pump himself up before he gets onto the track? How does Roger Federer sort of zone in before he gets onto the court at Wimbledon? So there is a lot to do. There's a lot to do. If there is anyone that knows, in fact, actually, if anyone has that information, it would be greatly appreciated if you could send it to me. What do these sportsmen do? What do they do? And maybe I can potentially start to weave a potential routine and try that for the next time. But yeah, keep me informed, keep me posted with those kind of things, and I'll do my own little bit of research, and we'll see where we're at. I don't know when I'll be back. I've got a lot of other things to be getting on with that will all inform this, but I kind of need to wait until an exercise or someone comes to this place. Well, to be honest with you, I can still keep talking about stuff because I've got still quite a lot to do with the room. Anyway, see you in a bit.